I'm Richard Nikoley. I blog at freetheanimal.com. If you saw my presentation at last year's AHS, I was on self-experimentation, and one of the things that I talked about was in conjunction with going paleo and doing the fasting and doing the workouts that I do, was that I changed my attitude in terms of the way I viewed politics, news, religion, so on and so forth. And I thought, well, maybe I'll come and explain that more. People who read my blog know that, pretty much know my philosophical and principled stand on these things. But what I'm intent to do today is give a more practical view of what I'm talking about when I talk about this. So let's get into some definitions. Epistemology, just a fancy word for the study of knowledge. And the things it's involved in is things like, what is knowledge? Well, the only real way to answer that is kind of tautologically. Knowledge is knowledge of reality. So it kind of, and how is knowledge acquired? Well, most fundamentally by your senses, by your sense organs. That's your portal into what gets you the data, which you construct into a hierarchy of concepts that once you have that hierarchy, it's knowledge, and knowledge can build on knowledge, and so on and so forth. To what extent is it possible for a given subject or entity to be known? Well, as much as you can know about it, but one hopes that no matter how much you know, there's always a seeking to perfect the knowledge, to get better, to get better, to get better in the knowledge. So to sum it all up, the way I like to sum this all up is epistemology, for me, is, and this is why this is a practical presentation, is concerned with the quality of your knowledge. How good is it? So, now, sociology, everybody knows what that is. It's just a study of human societies and interaction. No need to spend a lot of time there, but what I wanted to do was kind of put the two together, social epistemology, and I was trying to figure out a way that I wanted to convey it, and I was on Stanford University's Encyclopedia of Philosophy, and right there in the conclusion, I saw this social epistemology acknowledges that quests for truth are commonly influenced, for better or worse, by institutional arrangements that massively affect what doxastic agents, that's belief agents, hear or fail to hear from others, or see or touch or smell, integrating all those senses, to maximize prospects for successful pursuits of truth being very high quality knowledge. This variable cannot sensibly be neglected. And you'll notice that I bolded institutional arrangements. This is part of the social structure where we have moved far beyond the hunter-gatherer stage, where we're 30 to 60 people, and we have massive institutions of governments and states, and then all of the institutions that flow from there. So let's talk about the knowledge base. What is the base of Paleo man's knowledge? And we'll juxtapose that with what the basis of Neolithic man's knowledge is in many cases, or at least part of it. So these slides are actually somewhat self-explanatory. Sunset, how much of what Paleo man knew about reality was predicated on the fact that he knew the sun would rise and what it looked like when it rose, or looked like when it set. Animal tracks, where are they going? Where did they come from? Are they food? Do they know something about reality that we don't know when they're migrating or moving away from something? Sunset, being an ex-Navy officer at sea, red sky at night, sailors delight, red sky in the morning, sailors take warning. You'd be surprised how valid that is at sea. Friend or foe? Aliens. They have built-in traction on their feet. So, storm clouds. So as you can see, these are all real things in the environment that Paleo man had to look at and integrate and to figure out, and from experience, and say, well, this happened last time. What's going to happen this time? Is the same thing going to happen? So on and so forth. But here's the one I like the best, and I have to credit Frank Versenich for this. He, last year in his presentation, he suggested that this is really a representation of where human knowledge really starts to take off, an animal paw print, and what you can glean about reality from looking at that. And I'm sure that no matter how long we stayed here and talked about that at some point, a Paleo man with experience in hunting and tracking could look at that and tell you a lot more. I mean, there's debris in it. You know, how long has it been there? What kind of animal? What size? Is it edible? So on. Is it dangerous? All right, so now let's go on to see what the basis, the knowledge base, the quality of knowledge is for the Neolithic man. So two big institutions right there, the church and the state. Prayer, self-explanatory, conventions. What this all means is authority, incidentally, right? So a lot of people's knowledge in the Paleolithic, their knowledge was built on their own authority, their own authoritative grasp of reality, looking at real things and making judgments. And today, people think that they have knowledge when really all they're doing is following some external authority, be it a imagined one or a real one. And these are the bedfellows that keep everything going nicely for everybody, spinning the lies and the falsehoods and the illusions that Neolithic man is being asked to act on. Those guys too. It's funny how people make distinctions, right? Fox News is bad. See, they're all just bullshit. All right. Oh, and then to some people, that right there represents the absolute epitome of quality of knowledge that you can get. Bar none. Imagine that. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, is this like a romanticizing the primitive sort of a thing? Is Richard a Luddite? No. I got here on an airplane. I took the subway from the airport, and I drive a BMW at home. So no, and I have a roof over my head and a soft bed and shoes on my feet sometimes. So no, I am not. What I'm getting at here, and you see, I've kind of played with the word here a little bit to highlight the knowledge part of it. So this represents the part of Neolithic that we love. This is the good stuff. This is the stuff that has quality knowledge because it's based on that, ultimately, fundamentally, not that. It's not based on someone saying, no, this plane will work because I said so, or God said so, or the president said so. Nope. That's real. That's an illusion. The whole aim of practical politics is to keep the populace alarmed and hence clamorous to be led to safety by menacing it with an endless series of hobgoblins, all of them imaginary. H.L. Mencken, one of my favorite quotes of all time. But it is a little bit hyperbolic because there are real hobgoblins as well. Financial crises, unemployment, so on. But you notice how the authorities always blame the guys with the quality knowledge who do this stuff. It's the corporations, it's the bank, it's greed, it's unbridled individualism, it's inadequate regulation. It's never state force and violence. Ever heard of demicide? Professor Rommel, University of Hawaii, has devoted most of his life, or a lot of it, to detailed study of the amount of demicide, which is defined as basically any killing by government of non-combatants. So it does not include combatant war deaths. So we're talking about a total of about 395, almost 400 million people killed by governments since pre-20th century and in the 20th century. So 262 million deaths. I've been watching this for a long, long time, and every time him or one of his team of researchers changes the figures, it's pretty much always upward because they get access to more and more documents, like such as when the Soviet Union came down and so on and so forth. So they're able to better estimate the number of deaths. And like I said, it doesn't include the combatants killed in the 350 wars since 1800 that governments have engaged in. I didn't get a figure for how many were killed in the 1800s, but in the 1900s, in the wars in the 1900s, including the not including the American Civil War that killed 600,000 people, 40 million or so in the 20th century. So, and there's a reference. It's at the University of Hawaii website, Power Kills. Or just search Rommel on there if you want to read all about it. The book is called, he has several books. The latest one is called Death by Government. Pretty self-explanatory. You've heard the saying, lesser of two evils. It doesn't really matter which one. If you're saying the lesser of two evils, you're saying you're choosing evil. And some of the things, including the problem with diet and everything, apart from what I'm talking about, is the result of picking evil for generations, and instead of saying no. All right, social power. So I want to see how many of you think you have true social power compared to, say, hunter-gatherer man or paleo man. Cooperation. For hunting, for cooking, eating, sitting around, talking with one another, chatting, socializing, small groups. There's an example of social power in the Paleo and the Neolithic. I like to say this: we evolved to account for the actions and values of 30 to 60 other individuals, with each individual having a real and true potential to influence the direction of the tribe or group as a whole. And this is genuine social power. Many of you have families that approach that. The extended family is maybe 20 or 30, 40 people. And how one person, how almost everybody knows what everybody else is doing and what they're about, their actions, their values, and everybody knows that pretty much anybody in the family, if they're persuasive enough, really has familial social power. They can influence what that family does. Now, but here's where so many people in the Neolithic think that their true social power comes from. At least they have the decency to cover themselves up. So, there's my perspective. So this is the part, while you get a good laugh, where I say, whenever I talk about this stuff, and I do blog about it, sometimes it's usually on a philosophical level more, but people say, all right, so Richard, you're an anarchist or whatever label you want to choose. What's your solution? How do you do it better? What's your better idea for stuff? So that's where I'm going to show you. Finally, I'm going to lay out the whole plan to solve all these problems. Yawn. Actually, no. People ask me, well, what would happen in an anarchy? Everything. Everything happens. So what you do is you figure out who you want to associate with, trade with. But it's mainly a mental attitude. If you stop and think how many of the things you do every day require the assistance or the intervention of government, not much, right? So here are some simple things I have done to improve my life and not worry about what's going on in the media or politics. Nurture family, friends, small social circles. And that's easy because so many of you do that already because it's so natural with the paleo lifestyle, diet lifestyle. The exercise, so many of you go to CrossFit, which are kind of small little social groups in themselves. It's great. Trade in social circles and locally from merchants you know. Even barter when possible, you know. Trade the eggs your chickens make for some milk or whatever you're doing, you know. Never watch mainstream news. I have not watched 1 minute of any of those cable channels or local news in 5 years now. Not a single minute, ever. Never turn it on. No newspaper, no magazines. Important news will always find its way to you. Interesting how that works. I pay no attention to politics, and I never vote. It's a waste of time. Plus, if you vote, you have no right to complain. Do something you love to do and see if you can turn it into an income stream to live on. Simple idea, entrepreneurial, start simple, something you love. And eliminate from or change those things in your life that diminish the enjoyment of your life. I should have added on there to run as far away from external authorities of all sorts as you possibly can. And I think that wraps it up.